preschool sweethearts fall in love again after 20 years apart. We see some amazing love stories in fairy tales and movies, but many people that sort of magical love just couldn't come true in real life. Well, the story of Matt and Laura is about proving those people wrong and proving that true love always finds a way. These two lovebirds met at a very young age and developed a special bond right in preschool. Over time, life saw them drift slowly apart, and it seemed like their story was over before it had ever really had time to begin. One day, however, the pair met up again by a sheer stroke of good fortune. Perhaps it was fate or destiny looking out for them and guiding them back together, or maybe it was all just a happy coincidence. Either way, it all ended in a pretty extraordinary way. Read on to learn the full, breathtaking story of Matt and Laura, from their very first meeting and the development of their bond right up to the modern day. You won't believe how they're doing these days, and you might even shed a tear or two of happiness along the way as you enjoy this amazing, heartwarming, true story of real romance. A friendship forms from an early age. The little boy on the right, Matt, and Laura on the left, like so many other young children out there, they had met each other in preschool. At the time, as this innocent and adorable photo shows, Matt Grodsky and Laura Scheel were just a couple of fresh-faced children, with their whole lives ahead of them, just waiting to unfold. They encountered each other at the age of 3 at their local Phoenix, Arizona preschool and quickly became best buddies. In fact, their respective parents thought their friendship was so sweet, so they kept in touch so the kids could continue spending time together. However, little did they know that these were the first days of a lifelong connection. Right from the start, it was Matt who was drawn to Laura. He really fell for her and would follow her all around the playground and classrooms all day, doing silly things to try and get her attention. I'm sure you all know that kids in general usually find the opposite gender repulsive at that young age and they usually try avoiding one another. At first, Laura wasn't too interested, but over time, she grew to appreciate the attention she received from Matt and started to see how sweet and fun he was to hang around with. From there, their bond only grew stronger as they started hanging out together all the time, playing lots of games and chatting on every occasion. Then their friendship grew beyond the boundaries of school. Soon, like all childhood best friends, Matt and Laura weren't content with just hanging out at preschool. No. They wanted to be together all the time and started asking their parents if they could go and hang out and visit each other's homes during the weekends and during holidays. Sounds pretty normal though, right? I remember I also had a friend like that. Fortunately, their parents knew each other and were already friends too, so they were happy to let the kids meet up and play often. They planned various playdates and would take Matt and Laura to various locations like the movie theater or park so they could hang out with each other more often. Matt was so enamored with his best buddy Laura that he really would do anything to make her smile and see her laugh. What a sweet little kid with a heart of gold. It seemed to become his whole life's purpose to make her laugh and entertain her in any way he could possibly think of. It was his best friend, it made his heart happy. Whenever they spent time together, Matt could be seen trying to think up new ways to impress Laura and make her like him even more. He showed off his collection of Pokemon cards, for example, and would dress up in his Lion King outfit and quote lines from the classic Disney movie, making his best impressions of the characters. While Matt was busy trying to make Laura smile, she returned the favor by trying to teach him a lot of new things. She was always a very clever girl and liked to share her discoveries and skills with her best friend. For example, she taught him how to move his legs while riding a swing to get higher. You know, normal simple life lessons, she was there to teach him. She also taught him how to draw better and helped him learn many more little useful skills throughout their time together. So, I guess we can say that they taught each other the basics in life. Clearly, both Matt and Laura were getting a lot out of this friendship and loved helping each other in different ways. With Matt and Laura, however, their friendship was solid as a rock. They always invited each other to their houses and birthday parties outside of school and were truly inseparable. However, their bond was about to meet its first big challenge, kindergarten. Making the switch from preschool to kindergarten is huge for any child. It signifies an important turning point in their lives as they officially enter the world of education and begin a new chapter in their own personal stories. It's also a time when kids start to change, make new friends, develop new interests, and more, so there were fears at the time that Matt and Laura might slowly drift apart. They were the best of friends, but they knew that starting kindergarten would give them way less time to hang out. The challenge of starting school was made all the greater for Matt and Laura because they didn't actually go to the same one. Of course, they and their parents would have had hoped to put them in the same school and class, but fate had other plans. Because they lived in different areas, their location dictated that they simply couldn't attend the same elementary school. Matt and Laura, naturally, were dismayed to hear the news. It was the end of an era, and things were about to change a lot. Matt and Laura were both upset at the idea of going to different schools, but their parents promised they could still hang out at the weekends. They kept this promise as well as they could, but life has a way of throwing up obstacles and roadblocks you might never expect. Over time, Matt and Laura started to see less and less of each other as their families had other priorities, and they also found new friends at their own schools. As they progressed through elementary school, their time together really began to dwindle. At this point, the bond between Matt and Laura was being put to the ultimate test as they saw each other less and less. They'd still get together around the holidays sometimes, but even that tradition began to fade over the years. Eventually, they reached a point where their only line of communication was through Christmas cards sent in the mail. They were both simply too busy with their schoolwork and other aspects of life to find time to meet up anymore. It looked like their once beautiful and powerful friendship was coming to a natural end. Reading this story and looking at how it all played out, it seems quite upsetting, and we wish that Matt and Laura had managed to keep in touch, but at the time, their gradual separation was just a natural part of life, and it didn't really bother either of them too much. In truth, they both had lots of new friends at this point and were just getting on with their lives. They were progressing with their studies, going out, going on vacation, meeting people, and enjoying life in all the classic ways any kid should. Time flew by for Matt and Laura until they were both getting ready to start high school. Perhaps if fate had put them together in the same school, things might have gone differently, but once again, they were sent to totally different schools and had no connection and no reason to think of each other. It had been nearly 10 years since those preschool days when they were so close and inseparable. It seemed like Matt and Laura were destined to forget all about each other in time, but then something unusual happened. A wave of memories come flooding back. It was in the pair's freshman year of high school that something incredible happened. Laura was looking at her friend's phone one day when she saw a name she recognized appear on the screen. It was Matt's name. Her friend clearly knew Matt, and suddenly, all of Laura's memories of her childhood friend were starting to wash over her. She asked her pal how she knew Matt, and it turned out that the pair had gone to middle school together. Laura shared a few stories about Matt from when they were kids but didn't ask for his number to get in touch. Laura had seemingly decided that her and Matt's lives had moved on and it could be awkward or odd to contact him now, but her friend had secretly got other ideas. She wanted to reunite the pair after so much time apart, and she started discussing the plan with a few of Laura's other friends. The whole group agreed that it was an awesome idea and shared their plan with Laura, but she wasn't sure about it. It had been so many years since the pair last spoke or saw each other, she worried that Matt might not even remember her. Laura was worried about the whole idea, but she reluctantly told her friends that if they wanted to go ahead with the plan, they could. After all, the worst-case scenario would be that he simply didn't respond and then they could all just move on with their lives. Laura's friend happily sent Matt a message with Laura's phone number. From there, the group waited to see what would happen next. They couldn't be sure how Matt would react, but they were all hoping that the two pals might reunite and even meet up to spend some time together. After all those years apart, Matt was blown away to get a message with Laura's number and didn't wait long before getting in touch with her. The pair reconnected immediately, picking up right where they left off and reminiscing about old times. They messaged back and forth over and over again, talking about all their memories and even set up a movie date so they could finally see each other again and catch up in person. When the big day came, they were a little nervous but instantly felt at ease around each other. It was like all those years apart had never even happened. We know that Matt and Laura had always been very close, but now that they were older and more mature, the question had to be asked, would they develop any kind of romantic feelings for each other? Well, it didn't take them too long to find out at all. Their first meeting went brilliantly, and they decided to go on a few more dates before realizing that they had a wonderful connection and needed to make things official. They became boyfriend and girlfriend shortly after and, even though they were at different schools, saw each other often in their free time. But life wasn't about to make things easy for the star-crossed lovers. Just as they'd finally reconnected and started to fall in love, disaster struck once more. They were finishing school and heading off to college. Again, just like when they started kindergarten, they were both going to different locations. In fact, they were going to be about 1,000 miles apart from each other, So could they really make a long-distance relationship work? They were feeling quite hesitant and concerned about the whole thing since they both knew what it was like to be separated from someone special. Matt and Laura had already lived through one separation and nearly lost each other forever the first time. They didn't want to run the risk of letting all of that happen again, not after being so lucky to have rediscovered each other and fallen in love. They decided to give the long-distance relationship a go. Matt went to a college in Chicago, while Laura stayed in Arizona. This meant they were about 1,600 miles apart, but they were both dedicated to making their relationship work by any means necessary. They wanted to be together, no matter what. Long-distance relationships aren't easy. Anyone who has ever tried to manage this kind of relationship will know how hard it can be. The distance can be a real difficulty, and when you don't see your partner often, it becomes harder to hold on to them and keep the flame of passion alive. Matt and Laura knew all of this, but they were so motivated and determined by the things that had happened previously in their lives, so they really wanted it all to work. That fire and drive were what helped them to get through this tricky period in their relationship. Even with all the determination and motivation they had to make the long-distance relationship work out, Matt and Laura still had to face facts. Living over 1,000 miles apart isn't easy for even the strongest of couples, and life made it hard for them to see each other as often as they liked. There was even one period where they spent around 6 months without being able to see each other a single time, communicating only via social media and video chat. Eventually, Matt started to realize that he might lose Laura if things carried on this way. Something needed to change. Again, time passed until Matt and Laura were suddenly in their senior year of college. It was another big moment for the both of them, and another moment where things were about to change in their lives all over again, but before they worried about the future, they needed to celebrate the present. To honor their graduation and make up for all the time they had lost, Matt decided to organize an exceptional date. He arranged for the pair of them to have a picnic back at their old preschool, where the story began. Always a romantic at heart, Matt wanted the date to be extra special for Laura. I convinced Laura that we were going to a picnic at the preschool. We had just finished up our junior year of college, so I framed it as a nice relaxing date, Matt later revealed in interviews. Laura was touched by the gesture and was happy to be going on any kind of date with Matt. After all, they'd had to spend a lot of time apart during their college years, so had both learned to appreciate and make the most of any time they got to spend together. Wonderful, romantic gestures are what help us to realize how much a person cares for us and how far they can go to put a smile on our faces. There's nothing better than seeing someone you love trying to make you happy, and Laura was naturally very touched. When she learned that the picnic was going to be at their preschool and saw how Matt had organized the whole thing, she was blown away. On that day, like so many other days before, she saw how much he loved her and was falling deeper in love with him as well. Laura was blown away by the date, but she immediately noticed that something seemed a little strange about it. Matt, who was usually so bubbly and chatty, seemed a little nervous. He wasn't quite his usual self. Even on the drive over to the preschool for the picnic, she noticed that he kept fidgeting and looking stressed out, but had no idea why. Soon enough, however, all would be revealed, and she'd understand exactly why he was acting strangely. Laura was about to see exactly why Matt was acting unlike his usual self as they arrived at the picnic site, and he revealed a very special surprise. It turned out that this wasn't just a date, this was a wedding proposal he'd been planning for a very long time. Laura was gobsmacked as Matt, the boy she'd known since she was just a toddler, got down on one knee. I was like, oh my gosh, is this happening? She later revealed as Matt pulled a ring out of his pocket, held it up, and asked her to marry him. Naturally, she said yes. Laura had no idea and was totally shocked when she saw Matt get down on one knee and pop the big question, but in reality, Matt had been planning the whole thing for several months. He bought the ring many months before the date even happened and even spoke to Laura's parents about asking for her hand in marriage. Matt had always known, even as a kid, that he wanted to marry Laura, and their reunion and relationship had only strengthened his belief further. He planned the whole thing to perfection, even getting his brother to hide out with a camera to capture it all. Matt had seen and experienced what it was like to have someone special in his life and then lose that person for a long time. Then, he had the good fortune to find them again and was determined not to let Laura go a second time. Throughout their dates, he'd seen that he loved her more than he could ever possibly love anyone else. When you like someone, you just kind of stand up and say it, he said in interviews, and that's precisely what he did, both as a child and a man. It was on December 30th of 2016 at the Arizona Historical Society that Matt and Laura enjoyed the most beautiful, memorable, amazing day of their lives. Their wedding was a beautiful occasion, attended by their families and friends and filled with magical moments that won't soon be forgotten. Matt and Laura chose "Can You Feel the Love Tonight" from The Lion King to be the song for their first dance, humorously and romantically referencing those early days when Matt used to quote lines from the classic Disney movie. Matt's uncle was the one to officiate the marriage too. A wedding is all about the two people getting married, but it's also a momentous occasion for their friends and families, and it can mean so much to any bride or groom to see all of the people they care about in one place, all joined together to celebrate their love and happiness. This was an amazing day not just for Matt and Laura, but also for all of their friends and especially their parents who had seen them both grow up together. Matt and Laura later added that their favorite part of the whole wedding was when they got to dance with the people who mean the most to them. Of course, no marriage can be complete without a honeymoon. After the wonderful wedding ceremony was over, Matt and Laura packed their bags and prepared to set off for another amazing adventure together on the Hawaiian island of Maui. They took a lot of photos throughout their trip to share with friends and family back home and spent 2 whole weeks exploring the island, basking on beautiful beaches, watching the sun go down in the evenings, walking through tropical forests, and generally having an amazing and magical time. They decided to share their story with the world. Matt and Laura knew that their story was special, but they didn't realize quite how special it was until all of their friends and family kept talking to them about it. They constantly heard remarks and comments from people who heard about their relationship about how magical and amazing it was. Over time, they started to realize that it really had been quite an amazing adventure, and they thought that maybe more people would be interested in hearing about it. So they decided to speak to The Way We Met, an Instagram account that shares beautiful stories all about couples, charting the wonderful ways they met and brought their love to life. Matt and Laura prepared some photos for The Way We Met, and wrote down the full story of their encounter, right the way back to the preschool days and all through high school and college, all the way up to the present day. They hoped that their story would make a few people smile, but they weren't prepared for how big it would be. The story went viral, with lots of different people reading it and sharing it with their friends. Soon, people all over the globe were reading about Matt and Laura's amazing love. After sharing Matt and Laura's story with the world, The Way We Met started seeing some likes and comments appear, but then the rate of those likes and comments just started shooting through the roof. Within hours, the story had tens of thousands of likes, and it didn't take long for those tens of thousands to become hundreds of thousands. Then, the story got even bigger as various media outlets and websites started getting in touch with Matt and Laura to speak about their story and report on it to an even bigger audience. Some of the outlets include the Huffington Post and People. Matt and Laura have been married over 2 years already now, and many people are still learning about their story and falling in love with the couple for themselves. Meanwhile, Mr. and Mrs. Grodsky are just getting on with their lives. They live together in their home state, Arizona, and both have their own jobs. Laura is working with a nonprofit organization that supports foster children, while Matt is employed in an executive role at a digital marketing agency. Both of them are doing very well together, having bought their own house and taking the first steps towards building a very happy life. Yes, some little feet are running around Matt and Laura's home, but they're not the feet of a child. The couple has instead chosen to adopt a dog named Kirby, deciding that getting a dog was a good first step before thinking about having children. Both of them are still young and working full-time jobs, so it made more sense to just enjoy their time together and take on the responsibility of an animal before considering kids, but they do have some interesting plans about raising a family in the future. Laura has revealed in interviews that she and Matt have spoken about having children and said, "Right now we are focused on our new puppy Kirby," but added, "We would love to have kids at some point." It's good to see that Matt and Laura are so mature and sensible about all of this. A lot of couples end up rushing through big decisions or getting pregnant before they're really ready, but Matt and Laura have learned to be very patient over the years and know that it makes a lot of sense to wait and plan things out before making any big decisions. One of the big issues that so many couples face is that they can start to take each other for granted over time. As life goes by, you can get used to being with one person all the time and not see them in that same special way you once did, but for Matt and Laura, that sort of thing isn't a problem. They've both been through so much and worked so hard to get to this point, it's simply impossible for them to ever take each other for granted. They appreciate every single moment they get to spend each other and are more in love than ever before. Matt and Laura have already been married a couple of years and have known each other almost all their lives, but they still know how to surprise, amaze, and entertain each other in all the best ways. Over time, they've learned how to make their dream relationship work. Matt says he admires Laura's infectious smile and her desire to help those who are less fortunate, while Laura loves Matt's sense of humor, calling him the most driven person I know. Clearly, they were meant to be together, and we wish them all the happiness they deserve.